Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, to the Perfect One, to the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to our teacher, homage to our abbot, and dear venerable monks, Samneras and Anagarikas, and blessings to all the lay people who have gathered here today. I take this opportunity today to share some Dhamma reflections with all of you. Dhamma savana is a quality of gaining wisdom. Dhamma savana is listening to the Dhamma is praised by the Buddha in so many occasions, in so many suttas. Dhamma savana is a blessings, because what we don't hear normally, we hear it, and having heard something meaningful, and we keep it, we contemplate on them, and we clarify our doubts, we clarify our views, and this will open up the ways to make our mind even calm and tranquil. You might have heard about many such incidents which had happened during Buddha's time. Just by listening to the Dhamma, they all attained enlightenment. They may not be very educated, or they may not be very learned. Please sit down, please sit down. They may not be very learned and educated, but those people have that wisdom to perceive the Dhamma, and they understand it, and they got liberated by just maybe a small stanza, a 4 lines gatha, or which the Buddha have that incomparable quality of bringing transformation into the hearts of the people. So we cannot underestimate the listening to the Dhamma. Because we don't listen to the Dhamma, we don't know the true Dhamma. Because we don't listen to the Dhamma, we don't understand it. And we live it like that. We think it is not our, I can't perceive it. And we don't really put forth our efforts. We don't really interested, you see. So today we'll learn about the inner wealth. You see, there are different kinds of wealth in this world. The wealth of material prosperity, the material possessions, the wealth of knowledge, for example. Knowledge, if a person is knowledgeable and he says, I am great, I'm superior than others. It may be a wealth of youth, a wealth of having a good family, or so forth in the society, because we used to compare with others that so and so is very rich. Rich in what sense? Rich in the wealth, the outside wealth. Maybe that person have big house, a very a good house, a good job, or a family, and having a lot of money, is millions and billions of rupees. So we compare in these terms. The Buddha said that these wealth are sadharana, he used the word the sadharana dhana. These are just the common wealth, and if you have diligence, if you have efforts, you can gain it. And these wealth are very much helpful in this life as well, because we want happiness, and the happiness which derives from this wealth. No doubt, we need this wealth. But this wealth can be destroyed. It can perish at any time, maybe because of natural calamities, maybe some enemies or the thieves, they can steal your wealth. Maybe if you may caught by the government and the income tax people will grab you, they know that this money may be not legal monies you have accumulated through your illegal means, and they will cut you, and all your monies and possessions are gone. Or for example, somebody has invested in the stock market and suddenly overnight the stock market collapse and everything gone, right? You were sleeping in the night and suddenly the storms and heavy winds comes and you landed somewhere else, you see. And sometimes even at some occasions, even your own family members, your relatives becomes your own enemies. And this is pretty much possible in these times. We see how just because of the wealth, there is divisions, there is partitions, and there is a lot of litigations, and brothers, they fight. Mothers and the mother-in-laws and sisters, they also fight for their own share, right? So many family problems, even though we have wealth, but these wealth are just kind of ordinary wealth. But this wealth can create a lot of problems and a lot of sufferings if we don't use them wisely. But however may be, we need wealth. But the Buddha's advice to his disciples, both for the monks and for the ladies, is to develop the inner wealth. And these inner wealth are asadharana. They are not just common and ordinary wealths. And this wealth cannot be destroyed by water, fire, or by any other dangers, calamities, because these wealth are in the mind. This wealth is not stored somewhere else. These are not kept outside. This is very much there in our heart. So what are those wealth, and how do we develop this wealth, and how do we accumulate this wealth so that we can assure a happy living, we can assure prosperity here and now and hereafter? If I ask you, what is that you are seeking for? Many people who maybe you don't ask yourself, but if you now, all of you are sitting here, if you ask, what do I really want? What is the purpose of my life? You see, if these simple questions can be put, then you may answer that the purpose of living is to grow in blessings, you see, or to develop myself in the Dhamma. Some people may say, develop myself in the family life, in material life, as well as in spiritual life. That is how most of us we want it, isn't it? Because only material prosperity will not bring you happiness, everlasting happiness. And at the same time, we also need to survive, you see, in this world. And when we understand the law of karma, that we also know that there is also a future. You see, there is also a future birth. So our future is determined by our present actions, you see. So what are the things you then take along with you for the next life, if you have a right view, if you have right understanding of your own karma? So a wise person, they would contemplate that, well, I will have to think about my future well-being and happiness. Maybe the young people may not think about it, but whether you are young or old, you see, we have to go through this process, and these stages of life is deserting us. the stages of birth, and then growing old and old. Then our body becomes infirm, our body becomes weak, and then what is the next? Then we catapult into the next existence. So when you are there in the next existence, you have another body, you have another khanda, you have another planes of existence. It's no more the same world anymore. So then what you do is these qualities of the inner wealth will be your refuge, will be your saranam, you see. Saranam, that which gives us protection. So the Buddha in this sutta says there are 7 kinds of treasures, 7 kinds of wealth. And these wealth are ajaya anugamiko, says saddha dhanang, sila dhanang, hiryottapya dhanang, chaga dhanang, sutta dhanang, and panyame sattamang dhanang. The 7 kinds of treasures. And you may think, well, where do I find these treasures? Where do I search? Because to find some treasure, some wealth, we do search, you know. But these wealth are very much in your heart. You just have to look into your own hearts. And if you are diligent and mindful, then you can cultivate this wealth in this life itself, you see. The first quality is, the first wealth is saddha, you see. Saddha is called confidence or convictions. Now, for example, the students have conviction in the teacher. Yes. If the students are very much confident in the teachers and the teachings, he or she will definitely be successful. If the sons and daughters have confidence and faith in the parents, the path, the soul, then the children will be very bright children. You see, the person who is working in his professions, if he is confident in his work and he take that job as his only goal and he put forth his blood and sweat in that, he is very much determined, then he is successful. Now when we talk about these convictions, it's not about, you have to develop these convictions in your own life. And these convictions also becomes a determination. This conviction is not kind, you just have to convict blindly or you just have faith. No doubt the ultimate conviction is the Buddha, the qualities of Lord Buddha. The faith in the Samma Sambuddha, the faith in the Tathagata. But that faith is supreme faith. But for worldly faith, in normal, ordinary sense, we have to develop this faith, if not a spiritual quality, but at least a quality of success, a quality which determines our career, our life. So, the convictions in the Dhamma is also very important. And when we are very much convinced that the Buddha is Arahang, Samma Sambuddho, Vijja Charana Sampanno, Sugato Loka Vidu, Anuttaro Purisadamma Sarathi, Sattha Deva Manusanang Buddho Bhagavati. Many of you may be reciting this. But how many of you know the meaning here? How many of you know these 9 qualities? Not by heart, but with understanding. Who is the Buddha? And these things we have to know. The more we know the Buddha, the more we know the Dhamma. And once we know the Dhamma, we become the Sangha itself. We become, because we'll be one among the Sangha, and we try to associate with the Sangha till our last breath. The Sangha becomes our ultimate refuge. Then our Shraddha becomes really, really very strong and unshakable. When we understand the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, then our Shraddha becomes unshakable. This part maybe, and it's not possible just by listening to one talk or one Sundays, or occasionally we come for the Buddha Jayanti and the whole year we don't turn up. How you develop then the Shraddha? You come once in a year and you say, oh, I have so much of Shraddha, I burn so much of candles, I offer so much of flowers, I have Shraddha. And you show off the Shraddha. Many people, they show, I am more Shraddha than that person. My Shraddha is stronger. But they only comes once in a year. They visit the temples and they come out of the temples and the Shraddha is gone. They don't carry their Shraddha to their homes. They don't carry their Shraddha to their hearts. Shraddha is a quality which is in our hearts. It doesn't have to show anything. The outside world is busy in, projecting, projecting that word. They project their Shraddha and they say that I am spiritual. But the quality of Shraddha is something beyond that. It is a power. It is a strength, the bala. Buddha says Shraddha bala. Shraddha is the power which can lead us to the higher dhammas. It can lead us even to the liberation. So here, Shraddha is not blind faith. That you must remember. Shraddha is not blind faith. So, initial stages, somebody have to guide them. Sanjay, you guide them. So Shraddha is something in yourself. You see, Shraddha in the qualities of the Buddha, as I said. If you don't know the meaning of these 9 qualities of Arahant, the perfect one, Samma Sambuddha, the supreme enlightened one, Vijjacharana Sampanno, the embodiment of virtue and knowledge, Sugatu, the sublime one, you see, Lokavidu, the knower of the world. Here world means the inner world and the outer world. Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sarathi, the incomparable teachers of men and gods. Buddha is the teacher of gods and men, you see. And then he is the incomparable tamer, the charioteer, a guide for those who are ready, to be, ready to see the Dhamma. Buddha is the guide, he is a charioteer who can lead the way. And then he is the enlightener, the liberator. How the Buddha liberates? Through his Dhamma. He himself attained enlightenment, and he can transform an individual's mind. He can give, he can bestow this bodhi, the enlightenment, the knowledge, the vijja, the wisdom for liberation. That's what Buddha is called Buddho. You see, he's a Samman Sambuddho, and he is Buddho because he himself realized that bodhi, and he can bring about that enlightenment among others. And the last one is the Blessed One. Buddha is the Bhagava, the Blessed One, you see, because he brings blessings. One who is truly the protector, one who is truly the savior, he is the one who is the Blessed One, the Bhagava. So this is a kind of first level of meaning which I just explained, but the meaning have to be contemplated over and over. again in the mind. And these qualities are the qualities which brings the saddha. When you contemplate on the Buddha's qualities, how do you feel? You naturally feel inclined, you drawn towards the Buddha, and you feel a supreme and a saddha towards Lord Buddha. And you know that how many lives he had to gone through to attain this bodhi, how much life he has sacrificed. If you look into the paramis, the perfections he has fulfilled. Anyway, this could be another topic, but my point is here, saddha. Saddha is something which really very, very helpful. It is helpful to even cross over the ocean of samsara. And saddha is the quality which actually removes suffering, Without saddha, it's difficult. It's difficult to follow the path. It's difficult even to follow the Dhamma. If you don't have saddha, how do you practice sila then? How do you offer dana? How do you meditate without saddha? How do you listen to the Dhamma? For example, you have come here. Without saddha, you never would have appeared here. So, we are very fortunate that we have that saddha. But saddha can be blind as well. Some teachers may show some miracles, then we may have saddha. You see, somebody may say something else, and then you have total confidence and you can surrender like anything. But saddha in the true Dhamma, that is more important. Saddha which can bring liberation. Saddha should bring liberation, not bondage. In the name of saddha, we sometimes get catapulted, get binded, and we can't come out of it. The saddha brings fear at times, fear. So sila, we have the qualities of virtue, which is a great wealth indeed. And these virtues, a virtuous person is really a wealthy person. You may not have many things, but you have the virtue, you have that, the moral principles. You follow these principles by yourself, and you follow these precepts at your home. You follow these precepts with the families, the society where you belongs to. Then your sila becomes universal. Wherever you go, your sila is with you. That is why the precepts is very important. That is, I heard from Acharya Anand from Thailand. Then he was telling one day that one of the monks during Ajahn Chah's time, he said, Ajahn, teacher, I don't have any wealth. I am not rich. Then the Bhante said, well, you don't have to be rich. You just follow the sila. Then you are rich already. You don't need any possessions. Because the inner wealth is indeed greater wealth than the external wealth. But to understand it also needs wisdom. We give importance to outside wealth rather than our inner wealth. Sometimes we think the wealth which I will get is more value than my inner wealth, and we don't respect our sila sometimes. We don't respect sila. And we go against moral fear and moral shame. So, the sila, quality of sila which brings prosperity, no doubt. The quality of sila strengthen your virtue. This sila, the following of precepts, will give you a clarity in the mind. It removes your fear. It removes your inferior complex. If you have the precepts, confidence, and you go anywhere and you are fearless, you can go and, for example, you want to present something, but you are shaking, you are trembling because you don't have. Sometimes it happens, somebody goes to an interview, but he's already shaking. Why? Because it's the only reason is that he is not so strong in his virtue, the virtue of truthfulness, if he follows at least the 5 precepts, then that can gives you wonder at anywhere. So sila is such a wealth that you looks beautiful all the time. You don't need any other jewelries, any other things. Some people, they wear very expensive clothes, they wear jewelries, but that person is so angry and so talkative, so debating all the time. And you go to that person, you feel so scary. You don't want to approach him. Do you think that person is wealthy? That person is wealthy with all his attire and jewelries and all these things. We don't consider him as wealthy because he is lacking with his inner virtue, inner wealth. But at the same time, you don't have anything, but you are virtuous, but still you are wealthy. You have your peace of mind. So this Sila Dhamma is the protective Dhammas which protect us from evil, and protect us from falling into dangers, and it also helps to develop the goodness. For example, there is no Sila Dhamma, then even though we are humans, but we are not really human. We may be human body, but you are not human in the true sense. That human qualities of sila makes us a true human. Even though in the society, we are all human. But how many people really abides and live with these virtues, a Manusya Dharma? How many of us they respect this, the quality of precepts? Very rare to find. And once you follow this, really, you become a noble beings. You become a higher beings. You live in as a human, but your mind is really higher. So the next quality is moral shame and fear. A person without moral shame and fear, he will never ever follow precepts. That is why these quality, Buddha said, they are called Lokapalaka Dhamma. Lokapalaka means a protective Dhamma. When you have hiri, when you have moral shame, not to commit any wrongdoings, you see, that shame, the shame of not committing any wrong is the protection right there. That protects you. And that fear, if I commit this wrongdoing, I will end up in misery, and I will spread it misery to my family and everybody. You see, forget about any God Almighty will give you some punishment, but you are very much tortured, you are very much in misery at that time. You see, so fear of violating the moral law, fear of not committing unwholesome deeds to the body and speech, that is called moral shame and moral fear. And this is also wealth. This is also wealth. Why it is wealth? Because it helps us. This helps to uphold and protect our virtue. If there is no moral shame and fear, this place becomes a crazy world all the time. In the families, in the society, if you go, will be worst, will be inferior than the lower realms. So then we have the quality of chaga, Shraddha Dhanang, Sila Dhanang, Hiryottappa Dhanang. Shrutadhanam, sorry. Next is learning. Now, learning here may not be, we have to be knowledgeable to develop our mind. You have to be knowledgeable to be, the knowledge should go with discipline. Knowledge should go with the right kind of speech. Knowledge should go with humility and discipline. Now, maybe a person is so knowledgeable, so very knowledgeable, and he's carrying the entire library on his head. He's kind of a living encyclopedia, so to say. You can just tell him anything and he just give you the answer. But that person, whosoever maybe, so he doesn't have the discipline, he doesn't have that moral discipline. He's lacking with a right speech, sweet speech, kind speech, he's lacking with humility, as his knowledge gives rise to more arrogance, and his knowledge gives rise to proud, becoming so conceited, you see. And because of that knowledge, he looked down upon others. And the knowledge will not lead him to be a better human being, not lead him to develop his mind. So what use of that knowledge then? Maybe that knowledge is helpful for our living, from getting a comfortable living, but does it really helps to grow in Dhamma, grow in blessings? You do not give any kind of blessings. So Buddha said, Bahu sachancha sipancha vinayacha susikhito. It should be well cultivated, well mannered, and very much skilled with practical skills. Many times our knowledge just remains with a book. It's just textbook knowledge. Most of our knowledge is restricted to the textbook, right? For example, we learn about meditation. Oh, this and that meditation. Or we come to the vihara, we would try to listen for some time, but we can't even persevere for 30 minutes. We can't even sit for a long time. So that is the difference between learning and putting that learning into our action. So practical skills. Maybe a person learned many things, but he doesn't know how to organize his things, how to manage skillfully his own life. We may know everything. We may manage a big farm and big company, but when you come home and it's so messy, what is that learning then? Learning which brings order, which brings kind of neatness and a system, or which makes a life more easier, more easy to live, easy to support. That is the true learning. So here, learning should go with discipline, learning should go with humility, learning should go with cultured manner, a behavior, right? It should go with skills. Then it becomes a all-round, complete learning. The last quality, another quality of chaga, sacrifice for the well-being and happiness of others. You see, sacrifice, giving. Here, many people, they think that giving means any material thing. Okay, that is well, because if you want to gain some merit, then dana is the way. Through dana, you can also get merit. But behind that mind, it is actually we are sacrificing for well-being of ourselves and well-being of others. He is not sacrificing for something else. The Buddha also did his sacrifice. For what? For gaining the supreme enlightenment and and sharing that wisdom with all, you see, for well-being and happiness of all. That kind of life, the life of generosity, is something which can be practiced at home. How much little it can be, but if you practice it, it becomes your habit, and this will really gives you a lot of punya, a lot of kusala, wholesome things in your life. So the quality of giving is, you can say that this is a spiritual quality of chaga, letting go. We practice sila, we are letting go. What are letting go? You are letting go of your unwholesome behavior. You are practicing dana. What are you letting go? You are letting go your greed, your desire, your inquisitiveness. You are meditating. You have to let go. You have to let go your unwholesome thoughts, greed, hatred, delusions, defilements, doubts, restlessness, fear, worries, laziness or ignorance, many such defilements we let go. And you are listening to the Dhamma, you are developing that insight and wisdom, and you are letting go your wrong view, you are straightening your views, you're correcting your views. In that way, we can say chaga, but the chaga starts with your material things. Just share with others for the well-being and happiness, for yourself, for your family, and for all sentient beings. The last quality of panya. Now, how many of you know panya? Panya is a Pali term. It's called wisdom. Now, because of not having wisdom, we suffer. Suffering comes because of not having this quality of wisdom. And suffering comes because of ignorance. When there is ignorance, that means there is no wisdom. And ignorance of what? Ignorance of not knowing this life itself. Ignorance of not knowing our root of our own problems. Ignorance of not knowing where do I come from, where I'm going. You see, why this struggle? Why these things which I like, I don't get it, and what I get it also just change into something else. Why there is constant impermanency, change? You see, why there is unsubstantial, there is no essence with anything, and why, how these things happens with our causes and conditions, dependent origination. So, when we know the path to the cessation of all these sufferings, then we are wise. When we see this path and develop this path in our life, then we are wise, at least. But if you don't know how to solve these problems, then you are not wise at all. So we may think that we are wise. Maybe we are intelligent with our work. We are very much, skillful with many things. But we are really not smart. If you are really smart, then you cultivate this path to the completion. Then you get out of this suffering world. Right? So that is the wisdom of understanding the cause, the suggestions, and the path leading to the cessation of all dukkha. And that is the ultimate wisdom. So that means, if I give an example of a tree, maybe the tree have the roots and it has the leaves and the bark, but we have to search for the core root. You see, the leaves may be the virtues, the root may be the saddha or the virtues of generosity, but the core is the wisdom. So having gained that wisdom, we have to use that wisdom to liberate ourselves. We use that wisdom to remove the inner defilements, the factors, the cause, the underlying cause, in our mind. These things lies in our own mind. Now, everybody of you are sitting in this hall, but we all have this inner defilements, right? This craving and defilements will continue on and on. Maybe after 100 years, nobody will be sitting here, but these defilements will be there throughout your life. Can you tell me how many of you will sit here after 100 years? 50 years? Nobody. So we can assure that. But we can assure that there is defilements in the mind, and there is also a path which can remove these defilements, which is this Noble Eightfold Path, this Dhamma of Lord Buddha. So therefore, we have to practice Dhamma. So these kind of wealth which I have explained to you, these wealth, and this wealth is not only for the men or women. Women also can do. This wealth has equal accessibility to everybody. Sometimes some people say, no, men can do, women cannot do, or women can do, a man cannot do. But Buddha said, no, this wealth is common. This is for everybody. Whether man or woman, we could able to cultivate this wealth. And once you wealth, then you are the wealthiest person. And these wealth are incomparable wealth, asadharana, not ordinary wealth. So today, we as a wise person, we are very much fortunate to have to born as human beings, and to having born, we have a healthy body and mind, and we have this noble Dhamma, this wonderful Dhamma, precious Dhamma with us. The Sasana, the Buddha Sasana is still existing. We have the Sangha, a practicing community with us. So we feel very fortunate to have all these great blessings with us. And then we take these wealth, when you have these blessings, but we don't just have to say, oh, I am blessed. These blessings with me, blessings with me, blessings with me, then I don't go to the vihara, or I don't cultivate any dhammas then. So then after, when you grow old, what will happen? Your body will be weak, you cannot follow sila, you cannot meditate, you can't even understand anything. Then it's difficult to progress, you see. But it is possible. Like I can see some of the old mothers, they are very firm and intent. They're very firm. So it is possible, So today I will leave at this point of discussing about the inner wealth. The inner wealth, how we can develop this inner wealth, men or women, anybody of us who really seek want to promote his well-being and welfare in this life or the next, they have to follow these, develop this wealth in their own life. Okay, so with this, I will conclude here. Okay, may the blessings of Lord Buddha, his Dhamma and Sangha be with you. Surround your life with wisdom and well-being. May you all grow in prosperity and blessings in your life. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.